Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Brajajanaranja Yashodanandana Brajajanaranja Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada, Jaya Gurudeva, Jaya Gurudeva, Jaya Gurudeva, Jaya Gurudeva. Gurudev, 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 Jaya Jaya Gurudev. Jayo Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivajapacharya Ashtottara Shata Shri Srimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jayo Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivajapacharya Ashtottara Shata Shri Srimad Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada Ki Jai. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Jai. Okay. So we're reading from Srila Prabhupada Lilamrita. Page number 937. Okay. So this is volume 1. Chapter is entitled A Lot of Ground to be Covered. So practically, we began work from 1968. In 1996, I started, but in 67, I became very much sick, so I came back to India. And again, I went there in 1968. Practically, this propaganda work began vigorously from 1968. From 68, 69, 70, and this is 71. So, 3, 4 years, all these branches have grown up. And now, practically throughout the whole continent of Europe and throughout America, they know what is Hare Krishna movement due to our propaganda. End quote. Early each morning before sunrise, Prabhupada would sit in the temple room before his disciples and lecture from Srimad Bhagavatam. And each morning, the lights would go out, leaving everyone in darkness. It was a typical Indian power failure, and Prabhupada would stop lecturing while a devotee lit 2 candles for his Vyasa and 2 candles on the altar. Long shadows would mix with the luminous gold of the Radha Krishna deities, and Prabhupada, wearing spectacles and holding open the Srimad Bhagavatam in his hand, would appear wonderfully mysterious. One morning, Srila Prabhupada sang a new song, Jaya Radha Madhava. I'll teach you this song, he said. Reciting the first line, he had the devotees repeat it again and again. One line at a time, he went through the song. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Giri Varadhari Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari. They should know it, he told them by the next morning. Only a few devotees managed to memorize the song. So the next morning, Prabhupada went through it again by line by line. During the evening lecture, he explained the meaning of the song. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Krishna is enjoying in Vrindavan. That is the real picture of God, simply enjoying. The Vrindavan Leela of Krishna is the perfect presentation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is simply enjoying. All the inhabitants of Vrindavan, the gopis, the cowherd boys, Maharaj Nanda, Yashoda, everyone is simply anxious how to make Krishna happy. They have no other business. The residents of Vrindavan have no other business than to satisfy Krishna, and Krishna has no other business. Yashoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tiravanachari. He is acting as the little son of Yashoda, and his only business is to please the residents of Vrindavan. Yashoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tiravanachari. He is wandering in the forest of Vrindavan on the bank of the Yamuna. This is the actual picture of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But Brahma, Indra, big demigods, they're also bewildered. They are sometimes mistaken. How this cowherd boy can be the Supreme Personality of Godhead? Just like some of us think like that. But those who are thinking like that, for them also, there is manifestation of Krishna's supremacy. Gopijana Vallabha Giri Varadhara. Although he is engaged in pleasing the residents of Braj, when there is need, he can lift up the Govardhan hill at the age of 7 years, or he can kill the Putana at the age of 3 months. So many demons used to visit daily. Krishna used to go with the calves and cows with his friends in the forest, and every day Kamsa used to send a demon to kill him. Aghasura, Bakasura, Dhenukasura, so many. So also, Krishna is playing just like a cowherd boy. His supreme mercy, as the supreme personality of Godhead, is never absent there. That is God. God is not created by meditation. God is God. God is never manufactured. We should know this. On the third morning after introducing Jaya Radha Madhava, Prabhupada again sang it with the devotees responding. Then he began to explain it further. Radha Madhava, he said, have their eternal loving pastimes in the groves of Vrindavan. He stopped speaking. His closed eyes flooded with tears, and he began gently rocking his head. His body trembled. Several minutes passed, and everyone in the room remained completely silent. Finally, he returned to external consciousness and said, now just chant Hare Krishna. After this, the Radha Krishna deities of Gorakhpur became known as Shri Radha Madhava. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Wow, so beautiful. Well, there's a few devotees here online. I had not expected that anyone would be here. So thank you so much for coming. If any of you are able to turn on your camera, that would be really nice, even though you may be multitasking. I know it's early morning. Everybody's probably getting ready to go to work, cooking or driving. But still, if you're able to turn on, that would be so nice. Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much, dear devotees. Oh, that's really nectar. That's the nectar, actually, seeing the devotees and getting your association. Jai. Thank you. Okay, now I'd like to share my screen. How do I do that? Okay, here. Share screen. Screen broadcast. Start broadcast. Is it working?
You have to share, Madam. Share the screen. We should click on the screen.
Are you able to see my screen?
Yes, Mataji, you can see it. Living
Okay.
entity in marginal potency.
Okay, cool. All right, awesome. Okay, so we are on verse. This is verse 5, 13, 22. So let me pull it up. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So this is reading from the fifth canto, chapter 13, further talks between King Rahugana and Jadabharat. Nahi adbhutam tvacharanabjarenubhir hatam haso bhaktiradhokshaje mala mahurtikadyasya samagamachame dustarkamulo pahato vivekaha. Nahi adbhutam tvacharanabjarenubhir hatam haso bhaktiradhokshaje mala mahurtikadyasya samagamachame dustarkamulo pahato vivekaha. Nahi adbhutam tvacharanabjarenubhir hatam haso bhaktiradhokshaje mala mahurtikadyasya samagamachame dustarkamulo pahato vivekaha. Synonyms, so word for word. Na, not. He, certainly. Adbhutam, wonderful. Tvat charanabjarenubhi, by the dust of your lotus feet. Hata amhasaha, who am completely freed from the reactions of sinful life. Bhaktihi, love and devotion. Adokshaje, unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is beyond the capture of experimental knowledge. Amala, completely freed from all material contamination. Mahurtikat, momentary. Yasya, of whom. Samagamat, by the visit and association. Cha, also. Me, my. Dustarka, of false arguments. Mulaha, the root. Apahataha, completely vanquished. Avivekaha, not discriminating. Translation. It is not at all wonderful that simply by being covered by the dust of your lotus feet, one immediately attains the platform of pure devotional service to Adokshaja, which is not available even to great demigods like Brahma. By association with you, just for a moment, I'm now freed from all argument, false prestige, and lack of discrimination, which are the roots of entanglement in the material world. Now I am free from all these problems. Purport. Association with pure devotees certainly frees one from the material clutches. This is certainly true of King Rahugana's association with Jadabharat. King Rahugana was immediately freed from the misgivings of material association. The arguments offered by pure devotees to their disciples are so convincing that even a dull headed disciple is immediately enlightened with spiritual knowledge. Jai. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruvaya Namaha Kathanjala Smrite Yasmin Dushkaram Sukaram Bhavet Vismrite Viparitam Syat Shri Chaitanya Namamitam. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Jai. Okay, so now how do I adjust the screen that I can also see you and not just my own presentation? Is that possible or no?
Hare Krishna Maharaj, when you are sharing the screen, you cannot see others.
Oh, okay. Okay, all right. We can't have everything. All right. So this translation, this purport is talking about the effects of the wonderful association of devotees. So I thought so that's and also among other things, but the main theme is the association, the wonderful effect of the association of advanced devotees. So I thought that's what I would like to focus on today. That how important is the association of devotees in our life. So I thought that that we could actually look at this in the context of our bhakti journey. So we know that there is this special book called as Madhurya Kadambini, which gives Madhurya Kadambini, which gives the whole journey of the living entity when he comes in contact with Krishna. So we know that the journey starts from Adho Shraddha, then it goes to Sadhu Sangha, Bhajana Kriya, Anartha Nivriti, and then so on, going all the way up to the end of love of Godhead. So I thought we'll look at the importance of devotees in connection with with the 9 stages of development of bhakti. So the living entity, as living entities, we are parts and parcels of Krishna, and we represent Krishna's marginal potency. So marginal potency means that we always have the power to make a choice. One of the participants here today is one of her beautiful devotees is Jiva Shakti. So when my spiritual master was giving her name, Jiva Shakti, he said that Jiva Shakti means the independence to choose, and that independence to choose what action we take is there with us at every moment. It is that is our very fabric. That's what we are made of. That's the only thing that we actually have is this Ichha Shakti. Is that am I going to do this or am I going to do that? And this Jiva Shakti is inseparable from the living entity. So everything has a potency. Krishna has his potency. So even we as living entities, our potency is this ability to make a choice. So marginal potency means that is that sometimes we can choose to either associate with the material energy or we can associate with the spiritual energy. So when we have the human form of life, then we have an extra option that is added in our choice set. So as conditioned living entities, we are going through different life forms and material existence. And when we are going through animal life forms, we really don't have many choices. Our choices are how to enjoy the varieties of material pleasures. But when we come to the human form of life, then we have another choice added, which is the choice of choosing the path of liberation. Okay, so now I'd like to present to you an analogy. Now let's imagine that because I live right here in CBD, so this is really easy for me to explain. So let's imagine that all of us here are now at Britomart, and we are walking to the ferry terminal. Okay, and we arrive at the ferry terminal, and now there are 2 ferries that are going. So one ferry is run by Fullers, and this ferry is going to Waiheke. And the other ferry is run by Sea Link, and it's going to Rangitoto. So now let's say that you buy a ticket to go to Waiheke, and you jump on board this ferry, which is run by Fullers. Now, once you're on this ferry, once you're on the Waiheke ferry, you can't go and tell the captain that actually I want to go to Rangitoto. That no matter how much you don't want to go to Vahiki, or no matter how much you want to go to Rangi Toto, once you are on the ferry that is going to Vahiki, you are going to go to Vahiki. That's just how it is. You boarded the ferry and it's going to go to Vahiki. So now, so let's now consider that instead of Vahiki and Rangi Toto, these destinations are the material world and the spiritual world. So the first ferry, the first ferry is going to take us to the different destinations in the material world, and the second ferry is going to take us to the different destinations in the spiritual world. So what is the ferry that is going to take us to the different destinations in the material world? That is, so this ferry is the association of materially minded people. Now, what does it mean to have a material mindset? It means to be interested in sensual happiness, in making my body comfortable, in making my body happy, and making the bodies of those in connection to my bodies happy, which indirectly means making my own body happy. And the ferry that goes to the spiritual world is the association of Mahatmas. So, who are these Mahatmas? So, these Mahatmas are transcendentalists. So, they can be those who are fixed in the worship of the impersonal feature of Krishna, or those who are fixed in worship of the personal feature of Krishna, that is Krishna himself. So, these devotees, these transcendentalists, they're very peaceful, they're equipoised, they don't discriminate between one living entity and another, and they work for the welfare of everybody. And also they're devoid of anger, so which means that they're engaged in preaching. They don't get angry even when they meet hostile people or when they meet hostile activities. I feel that this is a very important point for us being in Lord Chaitanya Sankirtan movement. We come across all types of hostile situations, but a preacher doesn't get angry. That's the instruction of Rishabhadev. It's actually the first instruction that Rishabhadev gives to his no, it's the second instruction that Rishabhadev gives to his sons, that a preacher doesn't get angry. So this is actually the second instruction of Rishabhadev to his sons. So he's saying that that the door to the material world is the association of materialists, and the door to the spiritual world is the association of the Mahatmas. So now once you are in the association of materialists, once you are on that ferry, once you are on the first ferry, then you are going to be visiting the different destinations in the material world. So we can't expect ourselves to be in the association of materialists and expect to reach the spiritual world. And similarly, once we are in the association of Mahatmas, then we can't expect to enjoy the pleasures brought about by the different destinations of the material world. So this is so yeah, so this is something to understand, that this is something to remember, that I'm in this ferry, and if this is the ferry that I'm in, then I'm going to enjoy the sights of this ferry, not the sights of the other ferry. And this is the choice that we have, that which ferry am I going to be in. And actually this is a moment to moment choice. So this is the choice that we have every moment. Am I boarding this ferry or am I boarding that ferry? Okay, so now because we are in the association of devotees, we know what happens when we board the first ferry. So we're not going to focus on that one. We're going to focus on the second one. That what happens when we what happens when we get onto the board of the Mahatmas? So what's next? So because the Mahatmas are very, very compassionate, they feel a lot of compassion. Compassion is actually overflowing from their hearts for the conditioned souls. So Mahatmas, because these are very advanced devotees, they are very advanced in their bhakti. So compassion is an inseparable quality of bhakti. So once one has some bhakti in the heart, then compassion is self-manifesting. It just manifests and it actually just pours out. So because these devotees are so compassionate, the compassion out of the compassion of their heart, whoever comes in contact with them, they give them the seed of pure devotion. So Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu calls the seed of pure devotion as the Bhakti Lata Beej. And this Bhakti Lata Beej, we know the very famous verse Brahmanda Brahmite Kona Bhagyavanji, Guru Krishna Prasade Pai Bhakti Lata Beach. So Brahmanda Brahmite Kon Bhagyavanji is such a rare fortune to actually get the seed of pure devotion. Very rare fortune. So our bhakti journey begins by the mercy of devotees. Without the mercy of devotees, it is not possible to even step into the threshold of the city of bhakti. So that's the very first step. That's the very first point, that the association of devotees comes into picture. That by their mercy we actually begin this journey. Then what's the next step? So we often hear in Shastra we often heard this said, the seed of bhakti, bhakti lata beej. So what is the seed actually? So what is it that we actually receive from the pure devotees? So Prabhupada explains in the Chaitanya Charitamrita that everything, every plan, every program, every device, any idea has an incubation stage. And that incubation stage is the stage of contemplation. Without the stage of incubation, without the stage of contemplation, there is no next step. So this contemplation of this contemplation of the plan is the seed. Now we can also see this in our own personal life. I remember actually that I remember for the first time that when I read this, I actually read it with a lot of attention because I was reading Shuddha Bhakti Chintamani by His Holiness Shivaram Maharaj, and he was actually quoting Srila Prabhupada. So he was explaining that what do you mean by the seed? And at that time I think I was trying to build a certain habit. And so when I read this, I realized that actually this is so true. That many times we try to start something new in our life, or we try to build a habit, but it somehow just doesn't pan out. And then I realized that why am I not being successful in implementing this new habit? And then I realized that actually it's because I just haven't given it proper thought, that I haven't actually formulated it fully in my mind. Because the solution or the habit or whatever it is that we're trying to do, it has to first be fully implemented in your mind, or at least in your in our thought process. And once that's done, then it actually comes out. And then when I applied this, I was actually able to do what I was trying to do for quite some time. So that is what you mean by seed, by this word beach. It's the contemplation, it's the initial incubation. So what is the Bhakti Lata Beach? So the Bhakti Lata Beach are the methods, rules, and regulations that are given by the spiritual master to the disciple to train the disciple completely in the science of devotional service. So the methods, rules, and regulations that are given by the spiritual master to train the disciple completely in the process of bhakti are what constitute the seed of pure devotional service. So receiving the seed is the start. Receiving the seed is the second step, so to say, in our bhakti journey. So what happens once we receive the seed? What do we do next? So the next thing that happens is the most important thing is that we stay on the board of the Mahatmas. Because as I was saying, this is a minute to minute choice. So so we've received the seed. So this Bhakti Lata Beej, it can only grow, it can only be cultivated and watered and protected in the association of devotees, which means staying on the boat. So the process of advancement in bhakti is the association of devotees. Without the association of devotees, we cannot actually make any progress. And this is a very very important point to consider deeply. Is that is the way is the words that Prabhupada is using to explain this, is that the process of advancement, that devotee association is actually a process. And it's true, you know how devotees work on you, that it actually requires a lot of effort to stay in the association of devotees. It certainly is a process. So the way to progress in bhakti is to stay in the association of devotees. Now, this association of devotees, it just doesn't mean hanging out with them. We know what Rupa Goswami says. He says the six exchanges, six loving exchanges, is the way by which we associate with devotees. So it's the six loving exchanges are offering prasad, accepting prasad, offering gifts in charity, accepting gifts in charity, and the most important aspect is revealing one's mind about the difficulties that one is facing in Krishna consciousness, or about their doubts. Um, yeah, and inquiring about how to progress in bhakti, about how to step over, how to jump over the obstacles, how to overcome the obstacles. So all these six items have to be performed, and that is what makes the process of devotee association. Sometimes, our association with devotees can just be quite superficial. Of course, we have to find the association of like-minded devotees to be able to engage in all the six exchanges. Yeah, and we have to feel comfortable with these devotees to actually ask from them that, yeah, how do I progress in my bhakti, and how do I overcome the obstacles that I'm facing? How do I increase my service? Am I actually pleasing Krishna? How can I improve my service to Krishna? So we have to have that in our life. So the process of advancement in bhakti is association. Now, how does that actually work? So we progress in bhakti in two ways. So in the association of devotees, we receive the very rare opportunity to engage in devotional service. And then the second is that when we hear transcendental knowledge in the association of devotees, it waters the seed of pure devotion. So, in the association of devotees, we're meant to do these two things. Naturally, when you hang out with devotees, they try to engage you in service because they themselves are engaged in service, and devotional service is always expanding in nature. So, they also try to rope you in. So, by staying in the association of devotees means being open and being available for being open and being available to be engaged in Krishna's service. That is what it means to actually spend time with devotees. So that's the first way, and then the second way is to hear transcendental knowledge in the association of devotees. Now, this hearing is of two types. So when we hear So we have, we are a huge ISKCON society, and we have varieties of devotees here, and we have lots of Shastra by Srila Prabhupada as well. So when we hear transcendental knowledge in the association of in the association of devotees who are at a lower level of advancement than us, then it engages us in bhajana kriya. And when we hear transcendental knowledge in the association of devotees who are superior to us or of highly exalted devotees, then it causes anartha nivriti. So this is something to bear in mind, that we always want to make sure that we are hearing transcendental instructions from superior association as well, because that actually causes anartha nivriti, which is going to move us ahead. And this is also why we have this very famous saying that it takes a village to raise a devotee, because we may come in contact with persons, and we are trying to bring them along in Krishna consciousness. So we can only bring someone up to our level, to where we are at. But if we want them to progress further, as we want to progress further, we also want others to progress further. So which means it is very important that those who we are cultivating, we make sure that they actually have access to higher association than us as well, which means that we really want to encourage them to read Prabhupada's books, to listen to Prabhupada's classes, to listen to classes by advanced devotees, and also to attend classes by more advanced devotees, because that actually will cause anartha nivriti. And of course, we have to see whether we are doing that for ourselves or not. Is how much is that happening in my own life? So these two together the anartha that they destroy is that they dispel our misgivings about Krishna. Now, what is the main misgiving that we have about Krishna? Now, because of our long association with material energy, we've spent a lot of time in the material world, at least speaking for myself. We actually cannot understand that Krishna is a person and that Krishna has activities. And that is just so clear from the state of, at least it's very clear from the state of my japa, that I can't actually, I just don't get it, that Krishna is a person and that Krishna has activities and that I have a relationship with Krishna. So, and without an understanding of this personal feature, there is no question of devotional service, because devotional service is offered to a person. Service is offered to a person. So, without hearing from advanced devotees, it is not possible to understand that Krishna is a person. And why is that? It's because Krishna is Adhokshaja. So we know that we can't actually understand Krishna from our own limited knowledge. Yeah, we can speculate about Krishna. Yeah, that spiritual life is like this, spiritual life is like that, and I think this is what Krishna wants me to do now, and this is how Krishna is. We can speculate like that, but we can't actually understand Krishna like that, and neither can we understand Krishna by our own experiments. So Krishna is Adokshaja, and Krishna can only be understood by his own system, by the system that he gives. And that system is to actually hear from advanced devotees. So when we hear in the association of devotees, Krishna actually gives us the intelligence to be able to understand the science of bhakti. So by hearing in the association of devotees, what happens is that this is not working. Don't know what's happening here. Slow response. So by hearing about Krishna in the association of devotees, wait, bear with me. So by hearing about Krishna and the association of devotees, and by actually contemplating what we hear, and by trying to assimilate this knowledge about Krishna, so we know that hearing has four stages: Shravanam, Mananam, Nididhyasanam, and Vandanam. So first we hear. Mananam is then we really contemplate on it, we meditate on it. Nididhyasanam is we actually think about how can I apply this knowledge in my life. And Vandanam is prayer, because we understand that we can't apply any spiritual teachings in our life without Krishna's mercy. So when we actually try to contemplate and assimilate what we are hearing from the Mahatmas, from the devotees, then we actually make advancement in spiritual life. And it actually helps us to understand that Krishna is a person, Krishna has qualities, Krishna has potencies, and Krishna has activities. So this is what hearing and this is only possible by hearing in the association of devotees. Unless we hear in the association of devotees, unless we hear from devotees, it is absolutely not possible for us to understand that Krishna is a person. So, once again, by constantly hearing in association with devotees, this anartha of impersonalism is destroyed. And when that anartha of impersonalism is destroyed, then we actually develop this consciousness of rendering service to Krishna, that I want to serve Krishna. And when that consciousness is developed, then we actually arrive at the stage of nishtha, or also called as shraddha. So this shraddha or this nishtha develops in the association of devotees. So although in the bhakti journey, sadhu sangha is, at those 9 stages of bhakti, technically sadhu sangha is only the second stage. We have adha shraddha, sadhu sangha, bhajana kriya. But actually all the other stages of our bhakti progress, we only progress from one stage to the next in the association of devotees. Without the association of devotees, we cannot move ahead. We just stay stuck there. So once this consciousness of once we are at the stage of nishtha, then by further association, by hearing more and more, well, this is meant to show, yeah. So by hearing more and more, then the same messages they actually start to bring pleasure to the ear and to the heart. So Krishna Katha starts to become really nectar, and this is the stage of ruchi. And then from ruchi, we come to the stage of asakti, and then rati develops in the heart, which is bhava, and then bhakti, which is prema. So this sequence is actually presented in the verse. My Guru Maharaj, he quotes this verse a lot. Let me pull it up. It's Srimad Bhagavatam, third canto. Kapila Dev is speaking to his mother. 3:25:25 is such a beautiful verse. Okay, so it is. I'm going to sing it. Satam prasanga mama virya samvido bhavanti hritkarna rasayana gatha tajoshana dashavapavarga vartmani shraddharatir bhaktiranu. So by hearing in the association of devotees, as I said, it opens the paths to liberation. And what is that path to liberation? It's this stage here, the stage of nishtha, this consciousness that actually I want to serve Krishna. Then after that, touch Joshanad. So Joshanad is that same message. It becomes so pleasing to the ear and to the heart. So that's the stage of ruchi. And then rati develops, which is bhava, and then bhakti, which is prema. And all this happens step by step by step, all in the association of devotees. Now, all this sounds very hunky dory, right? But things don't always pan out this way. At least in my personal experience, that's what I've noticed, that there's always some or the other impediment. So thus far, we've looked at the wonderful effects of associating with devotees. But now let's look at what happens when we don't associate with devotees. So coming back to the stage, so there is something that should happen here, but is not happening. That's okay. So we see here, by doing these two things, as I mentioned before, by engaging in devotional service in the association of devotees, and by hearing transcendental knowledge, it waters the seed of pure devotion. So when these two happen properly, then the outcome is Shraddha, pure faith. Now, Shraddha, pure Shraddha, it has two unique identifiers. So the thinking of someone who has pure faith is that they have exclusive dedication to Krishna. So this exclusive dedication to Krishna, Krishna describes himself in chapter 8 of the Bhagavad Gita when he's talking about the different paths taken by different types of transcendentalists. And then he describes the path taken by the pure devotee, by the Ananya Bhakta. So the Ananya Bhakta is exclusively dependent on Krishna, has exclusive dedication to Krishna. What does this term mean, exclusive dedication? It means that this person has no other goal. His only goal is to please Krishna. He has no other person he wants to please. And it says add effects using hand gestures. Okay. He has no other person to please, and he wants to follow no other process. So, exclusive dedication means no other person, no other goal, and no other process. That is, so this person with pure faith has exclusive dedication to Krishna and is completely dependent on Krishna. And then in addition, Shraddha has three more qualities, very distinct qualities. So the first quality is that this devotee has a distinct taste for service. So how is this distinct taste produced? So when a person with this pure faith, and remember, this pure faith is not necessary. It's not that someone who is only at a very high stage in bhakti has to have pure faith, because all of us we receive the seed of pure devotion. So if we water the seed properly, then all of us can have pure faith. So this third quality, distinct taste for service, So when we receive the pure seed of devotion, then we actually understand that all whatever we were doing in our life so far was a complete waste of time. At least that was my realization. All the fruitive activity that I did, it's like, oh my gosh, I put so much effort, but it's just a complete waste of time. And it would have been so much better if I had come to bhakti a lot earlier in my life. But anyway, Krishna has his timetable, and I have my timetable of rebellion. So it's a big relief when we find that out, that finally I'm doing the right thing and I don't have to do the wrong thing anymore. So that's a big relief. So that relief combined with the inner joy that we experience by performing more and more devotional service, these two things combined, they produce a very distinct taste for service. And this distinct taste is described by Narada Muni. He explains this to Yudhishthira Maharaj. He says that this taste, it haunts, it haunts the devotee life after life. In every species, the devotee is haunted by this taste. And once someone has tasted this taste, they cannot give it up. So that's the distinct taste for service. The next quality is faith in Shastra. Is that yeah, like when Shastra says Abrahma Bhuvana Loka, that no planet from here to there or anywhere else, there is actually there is no happiness to be found in material endeavors of this world. So we agree, yeah, we accept that. Yeah. And we try to focus all our energies in serving Krishna. And then the third is that it gives us increased strength for performing devotional service, pure faith. It gives us the strength to do more and more devotional service. So these are the 5 qualities of Shraddha, pure faith, which sprouts. So Shraddha, pure faith, is the first creeper or the first sprout that comes from the seed of pure devotion. Now, if it if there is something called a Shraddha or pure faith, then it implies that there is also something called as Shraddha Bhas or impure faith. So pure faith is characterized by our knowledge of eternal relationship with Krishna, but impure faith is characterized by distorted knowledge and material desires. So let's go forward. So then the natural question is that what actually causes our deviation from? So when the seed of devotion here, when we water the seed of pure devotion, why is it that instead of pure faith, impure faith is produced? So let's look at that now. Okay. So as we started as I was saying in the starting, that it's by great fortune one receives the seed of pure devotion. It's by great fortune one receives the seed of pure devotion. And from that seed of pure devotion, the creeper of pure faith sprouts. But it's an even greater misfortune, or by even greater misfortune or oversight, that one allows the seed of pure devotion to be stunted by non devotional creepers. So these non devotional creepers, non devotional weeds, they stunt the seed of pure devotion. And such neglect produces impure faith. So even though all of us, especially all of us in ISKCON, we've received the seed of pure devotion. But we have to examine our heart and we have to see that how much have I fully accepted the seed of pure devotion? And how fully am I cultivating it? How carefully am I cultivating it? And how carefully I'm protecting the seed of pure devotion? How carefully am I protecting it from the influence of unwanted creepers? So, now what causes this deviation? Let's look at that. So, when we don't, okay, so going back, I had mentioned that what is the seed? What is the Bhakti Lata Beej? So, Bhakti Lata Beej is the knowledge of the method, rules, and regulations that we receive from the spiritual master on how to get perfectly trained in devotional service. So that is the Bhaktilata beach. Now, what causes this deviation is actually when we don't hear properly from devotees and we don't take full shelter of their liberating instructions. So then, so when we don't take full shelter of their liberating instructions, then we actually succumb to impure faith. Then we actually succumb to the bias of our own personal motivation. So when we don't follow the agenda that is given to us by our spiritual masters, by our mentors, by devotees who are engaging us in service. So when we don't follow that agenda, then naturally we engage in our own agenda. And when we are not fully purified, then our agenda is tinted by our own motivations for our own pleasure and for our own comfort. So this is actually what causes deviation. When we don't wholeheartedly take shelter of the liberating instructions given by advanced devotees, then we succumb to the bias of our own personal motivation. And then what happens is that we become victim of our previous conditioning and we succumb to our lower nature. So now, how do we know that we have deviated from pure faith? What are the signs of impure faith? So the first sign is that a person with an impure faith, they understand that the ultimate goal of life is devotional service. But somehow or the other, at the present moment, like my immediate purpose in life is to fulfill my own necessities. So even though I understand that my ultimate goal in life is to please Krishna, is to serve Krishna, but my immediate goal somehow always remains to fulfill my own necessities. So that's the first, that's one thinking of someone with impure faith. Then the second thinking of someone with impure faith is that they don't actually accept the supremacy of devotional service, and it is just practiced to fulfill. It is just practiced for fulfilling their own personal ambitions. And then another sign of impure faith is is a combination of mixed intentions, which is made prominent by the thirst for impermanent things in this world. So these are some of the signs of impure faith. Now, the big question is, how do we actually regain our pure faith? So, how do we regain pure faith? So, we go back to this original process of of how do we actually progress in bhakti. So, there's this very beautiful verse in Bhagavad Gita 7:28, chapter 7, text 28. Yesham tvantagata papam. I don't I can't remember the next line. Yesham tvantagata papam.
Jananam Punna Karman.
Brilliant. That's the one. Yesham tvantagata papam jananam punya karmanam. Te dvandva moha nirmukta bhajante mam dridhavrataha. Okay, so here's the thing. Yesham tvantagata papam jananam punya karmanam. So jananam punya karmanam. So this is how we regain our pure faith. Now, what is this punya karmanam? So when we actually stay in the association of devotees, and when we hear from Vaishnavas who have pure knowledge, who have transcendental knowledge, then their association is so powerful that it actually frees us from the influence of the lower modes. So that's the ear that you see on the right hand side. So when we actually hear transcendental knowledge and the association of devotees, that association is so powerful that it frees us from the influence of the lower modes. And then when we serve them, which is Jananam, Punya Karmanam. So when we actually serve exalted devotees, when we serve the liberated devotees, we attract their mercy. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he gives this beautiful commentary on this verse, and he explains that when we do acts to serve the liberated devotees, it attracts their mercy. It specifically, he says that it attracts their merciful glance. And their merciful glance is so powerful that by that glance, our sinful activities are destroyed. And when our sinful activities are destroyed, then te dvandva moha nirmukta bhajante mam dridhavritaha. Bhajante mam dridhavritaha. So by attracting, by their merciful glance, our sinful activities are destroyed and we actually become steady in our worship of Krishna. So when we get that merciful glance, it actually gives us the strength to resist our lower conditioning. And it gives us the strength to stick to the pure ideal of serving Krishna, of bringing pleasure to Krishna. So that is what actually happens when we do these two things together. That's the strength that we get by the merciful glance of the great devotees. And then the cycle continues because this here, then it comes to the stage of nishtha. So we become free from dualities, which is what this verse says, te dvandva moha nirmukta. Okay, now going to the next slide. Okay, so I'll just summarize now what so basically we've just discussed. We've looked at the importance of devotee association right from the very stage of beginning our bhakti life. And then devotee association helps us to go the distance in our bhakti life, and it helps us to reach the sublime destination of Krishna's lotus feet. So we absolutely need the association of devotees to begin our bhakti journey. We need the association of devotees to go through our to okay, this is yeah. So we need the association of devotees to begin our bhakti journey. Then we need the association of devotees while we're in the stage of bhajana kriya, anartha nivriti, in the therapeutic stage. And then we need the association of devotees in the relishing stage, which is starting from bhava and going up onwards. Okay, so that was my presentation. Hare Krishna. If anybody would like to ask any questions.
Hare Krishna Mataji, thank you very
Hare
much.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much for the very nice class, particularly highlighting all the points of gradual, sorry, gradual development of devotional service, how the creepers grows to a full-grown tree. With the association of devotees, you have very nicely explained. And particularly, you have told at the beginning that we have got two options as a partial independence. We can accept pravrittimar and the nivrittimar. Pravrittimar means accepting material enjoyment, and nivrittimar means doing transcendental service, and that all comes from a devotee. And which I also, I mean, one point it came to my mind. In fact, going to the Nivritti mark starts from a devotee only. Without the association, we never get it even.
Yeah.
A
Yeah.
material our life is so material surrounding. So
Yeah.
at the beginning, even we need the association of a devotee, even to know that there is a transcendental path. Otherwise, the life is so much. I mean, no difference from animal life. So we need a devotee from the beginning, and you have very nicely explained at various stages how we need the help of a devotee to grow our Bhaktilata Beach. And initially in the incubation stage, we need, I mean, the regulative principle from the spiritual master gives us protection to allow us to grow the seed. And subsequently, at different stage, we have to water it so that we always protect it. And in this way, we can keep only in association and with the devotees only, we can protect the tree. Otherwise, there is
Yeah.
always chance of falling down. So thank you very much for highlighting that one. But only one thing, Mataji, I think I was about to ask you a question. I mean, Bhaktilota Bridge, if I have, I mean, what is my conception I'm just telling. In fact, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has told that in Chaitanya Charitamrita. I think on there is a verse, Nitya Siddha Krishna Prem Shaddha Gobunaya Sravanadi Shuddha Chitre Karo Hridaya. That means the seed is already within us. We have to only ferment, when we have to only incubate it, because it is not a thing we have to find out from anyone else. The seed, in one sense, what I understand is maybe is already within us. It is not we have to find out elsewhere. Within us, it is always there. Only thing is, we are neglecting it. We don't know it because of ignorance, because of our attachment for millions of life past. We have forgotten about that, and that's why we're in this material world. So thank you very much once again for your nice class. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for such a nice summary. You summarized it so beautifully. Jai, I would not have been able to do that. Wow. And thank you so much for adding that point. Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Does anybody have any questions, any points to add on? There are so many devotees online. Wow. Any reflections?
Hare Krishna Mataji, Ram.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you for analyzing Nava Bhakti in so much detail, give so much comparison analysis. It starts to know Adao Shraddha, the Shraddha, the whole Prakriti which starts from the Shraddha. Even before meeting the devotees, in the second stage, Adao Bhajan Kriya. Second stage is association of devotees. But before somebody meets the devotees, there's a prerequisite for like a Shraddha. I know
Yes.
you mentioned somebody about pure Shraddha, pure faith. But what about this initial? Somebody hasn't even met the devotees. So what propels them, or what is the precursor
Yes.
for meeting the second stage of meeting devotees? What impels them? What is their past devotions or contribute some Sukriti or their previous karma that they meet this Shraddha? Maybe you can
Thank you.
elaborate because this is the
Yeah.
beginning stage.
Thank you so much for asking that question, actually. Yeah, I mean, I wasn't sure if I would have enough time. That's why I didn't include that in my presentation, but I did want to talk about that as well. So, so we have, so the living entities are performing different types of activities in this material world. And some activities are dushkriti and some activities are sukriti. Now, sukriti is of three types. So you have bhakti unmukha sukriti, you have mokshonmukhi sukriti, and then you have kama mukhi sukriti. So there are three types of sukritis. So the first bhakti unmukhi sukriti, it actually brings you to devotional service. Second sukriti is favorable for the path of liberation, and third sukriti is favorable for the path of fruitive activities. So generally, bhakti unmukhi sukriti, it happens in two ways. So the first way is it's extremely rare, is that when a person receives Krishna's mercy directly, that Krishna himself inspires the person to actually go approach a devotee. But that Shastra explains is very rare. Then the second way of obtaining Bhakti Unmukhi Sukriti is that when a person unwittingly or unknowingly, what we commonly know is called as Agyata Sukriti, when a person unwittingly or unknowingly does a kind act does an act of kindness towards a Vaishnava. And they may not know that this person is actually a devotee, but Krishna notes that act, because Krishna is always trying to help the living entity. So Krishna is always trying to find bonus points to give one an impetus, to push them towards bhakti. So when a living entity performs an act of kindness towards a devotee unknowingly, then that qualifies as bhakti unmukhi sukriti. Then the next step after that is that Krishna within the heart of this person actually gives them remembrance. No. Then what happens is, then after that, so this person who has performed, let's say, one act of, Agyat Sukriti, then when this person has performed sufficient acts of Agyata Sukriti, like he has enough credits, then actually Krishna within the heart inspires this person to contemplate the activities of the devotees this person has come across, even though he may not know that actually that these persons were devotees, but he may just think in his mind, oh, this person was so nice. I met this person was so nice, such nice behavior. And that is actually creating more credits for this person. So once the credits are accumulated enough, then the person actually comes next step, which is, they may receive a book from someone, they may receive prasadam, or they may, their colleague may be a devotee, Yeah, somehow like that. I'll tell you a very nectar story. So there was this one person who came to the loft, and he's a visitor from South Africa. And he had just landed in the country one day back. So I asked him, "How did you find out?" And he said to me that he was going to the Parnell market, and this guy, he looked like a hippie. So there was this one man who was apparently in his 60s on a motorbike, and so this person was saying that this man on the motorbike, he looked completely out of it. Like he looked like he was high on drugs or something. But then, so this guy was riding the motorbike, and then when he saw the South African tourist, he just stopped the motorbike, and then he said, "I think you will really like this place," and he suggested that he goes to the loft. So, well, obviously this person, I don't think that this person was practicing Krishna consciousness or was a devotee, but somehow this South African person, like Krishna used this person as an instrument. Yeah, so the first step is bhakti unmukha sukriti, collection of them enough. When enough of them are collected, then the person contemplates or thinks about the Vaishnavas in their heart, and then Krishna just makes the connection. I hope, does that answer your question, Prabhu?
Thank you. Really, very elaborate described so many different types of Sukritis. I didn't know that. Thank you, Mataji, for elaborating this very wonderful point. Yes, sometimes you go on Harinam or food distribution, and someone will just give a thumbs up or just smile. I think they just accumulate this Sukriti, just because they are favorable to the devotees. So I think Krishna become happy. Sometimes we see in like Otara when you do food distribution, some islanders will come look very rough looking, but they put $10 or $5 in the donation box. I mean,
Yes.
you will never expect that, but they just come and do it. So I think by the action or the appreciation of the devotees, they are achieving this Sukriti. Thank you, Mataji, for. But this is the beginning stage. Now Shraddha, to just get to the beginning stage is very important. Otherwise, we will not take off. Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Yes, definitely. And that's the reason why Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has devotees all over the world. Yeah, and often my Guru Maharaj always explains this point, because devotees always often bring up this question about, that okay, we are putting so much effort in outreach, but how do we know whether it's having any effect or not? We don't see people coming along. And so Guru Maharaj, so my Guru Maharaj, he says that you can't see how you're affecting people, and you're only looking at people in terms of this lifetime. But actually, our current lifetime is just a flash in eternity. Yeah, so we don't actually know how much progress that person is making. In fact, on that point, I would really like to share something amazing that I read by Shivram Maharaj and Shuddha Bhakti Chintamani. So he makes this point that even in the life of devotees, even in our own personal life, as we are moving ahead, Krishna, that even though we may have the qualification to be at a much higher consciousness, but Krishna may not bring us up to that level because he wants us to be at the level where we are at right now to perform a certain type of service. And and so Maharaj was especially giving this, explaining this point in with the context, that often we see that devotees only at their last stages in life realize, have all these ecstatic symptoms, and yeah. So why is it that Krishna holds it till the last stage? And so the Shastra explains that the reason why Krishna holds it till the last stage is because Krishna wants the devotees to taste the nectar of uninterrupted service. Because if we start feeling too ecstatic too early, then our service will get interrupted. And every service requires a different type of consciousness. Yeah, so our consciousness is actually completely under Krishna's control. So where we are in our bhakti journey is completely under Krishna's control, and we can't actually judge about our own advancement or about anybody else's advancement based on based on their externals, because Krishna is working individually with every person, with each. Yeah, Krishna is so personal. It's amazing. Yeah. Any other reflections anybody would like to share?
Well, that doesn't seem to be, and I think you've gone a bit over time. So
Okay, all
bring it
right.
to close here. Thank you so much.
Thank you
Uh,
so much. Thank you so much, dear
uh,
devotees. So
Vancha
much
kalpataru
fun.
bhyascha
Kalpataruभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्यैव च पतितानां
Patitanam
पावनेभ्यो
pavanebhyo
वैष्णवेभ्यो
Vaishnavibhyo
नमो
Namo
नमः
Namo.
अनंत कोटि
Antakoti
वैष्णव वृंद
Vaishnavrinda
की
ki
जय
jai.
मुंजारण्य माता जी की
ki
जय
jai.
शिला प्रभुपाद की
Ki
जय गौर
jai.
प्रेमानंदे हरि
Hari
हरि
Hari
बोल
Hare
Bol.
Hare
all
Bol.
glories to assembled devotees Hare Krishna thank you very much Mataji very nice class thank you
Thank you. Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna
Govinda Jai Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare Govinda Jai Jai Gopal Radha Rama Govinda Jai Jai Govinda Jai Jai Gopal Radha Rama Govinda Jai Govinda Jai Gopal Radha Rama Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Ram 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 Hare Ram Krishna Yadavai Namaha Yadavai Madhavai Gopal Govinda Ram गिरिधारी गोपीनाथ मदन मोहन नित्यानंद सीता